Howdy doody, and welcome to another Tip Tuesday. My name is Henry Arndt, and I wanted to talk to you today about the TechSync module, which is for you field service technicians using our single users out in the field. You'd be using this basically so that when you don't have internet access, you can actually write data to a database locally, which mimics that thereof your multi-user main database. So I wanted to really kind of talk to technicians who are out in the field and talk about the different options that you might be able to use and what we would generally recommend with how we set up databases administratively here. So the first thing that you're going to do to activate TechSync, if you haven't already turned on your single user, is just to turn on the single user. Go ahead and log in. Now you'll have to have certain settings done ahead of time, but this is making the assumption that those were already done. So as we log in the lower right-hand corner, our user location settings, I've already turned this on, maybe from the multi-user or maybe because we turned them on, but you're gonna see this little guy pop in the lower right-hand corner. That's very important. That means your TechSync is running. If this is the first time you've ever run it, or if this is you've never actually thought about this before and it disappears sometimes, it'll actually go up into this box up here. You can just simply drag and drop it down here, and then that little icon will stay down there so you can feel secure that everything's running, everything's A-okay. So go ahead and do that if you haven't already done so. We've got our single user running, but even if we turn off our single user, this will still be running. So don't worry about anything like that. The idea here is that we create small files to be pushed up to the multi-user. And if you don't have internet access, those get queued up. Once you have a valid connection, SFTP, Secure File Transfer Protocol, is met, then we push things up and pull things down, okay? So I'm just gonna walk you through a few of the options here. To access the options, you just wanna right-click on this guy down here. And you can see that actually happens when a sync is being performed. So what we're gonna do, I'll just run through this. You got a last sync summary of the last database that you pulled in. You got a change location, which is related to your user location settings here. The database listing, we don't delete databases. When we pull in a new one and create a new one, we archive the old one, so you always have a place. If something looks inconsistent, you can go back and check and make sure the tech actually completed their work, and or if something strangely went wrong. So we've also got view sync queue for future syncs moving over to the multi-user database. That's kind of a security blanket for tech. Sometimes they want to make sure that their files get pushed over and maybe they don't see them right away. Oh, they're still there because we don't have a valid internet connection and we haven't tried pushing yet. So send syncs now. If an unusually long timer or maybe 10 minutes and you get to a place and you're like, I want to go get some dinner, then you're going to see, you can just send your syncs immediately right there as opposed to waiting for it. The rest of these are kind of some, basic setup items which should generally be done before you get your machine and have to deal with going out into the field. So your IT department, your system administrator might be doing that. But one of the things I want to make sure you have on is this item right here, archive mode. It keeps a permanent log of all exports and imports in an archive directory. So anything that comes from your single user, it's actually going to be in the form of a .its file. That will be saved in this location. So you can see, hey, if something didn't go up, is it in here? Oh, I didn't do the work, or something may have gone awry at the time. So I would kind of advise keeping that on at any time. It's just kind of a nice extra security feature. So lastly, it's Monday morning. I need to go out and do my work. I'm going to go to create new updated database, okay? When we do that, we get a pretty simple dialog here where in the upper right-hand corner, you choose the companies where you're going to go for the week. And then in the lower left-hand corner, you have some additional options, bulk receive options. If you've used the data exchange, it's very similar to the bulk receive data exchange options. That's kind of a recommendation how we generally set things up. I'd probably go with something around what this looks like right now. In the upper left-hand corner, include events, event documents, and certificates. When we have this checked as a single user technician, this is saying when I pull in ABC company or I'm pulling in whatever company I'm going to for the week or companies, I may want historical data for the gauges that I'm pulling in. So if I want older certificates to see what happened last time, or this customer always wants to see the last 2 calibrations, they have all these questions all the time, then you can have them pulled into that database. You can also specify the date range at which those certificates go back. So that event filter over here, that's where that kind of comes into play right now. It says January 1st, 2018. That's where we set up by default at the beginning of the year plus 2 years. Essentially, the more data you bring in, the further you go back in time, the longer your sync's going to take, because those documents, those PDFs and everything are the larger part of the pull. So keep that in mind. Keeping it lean is good, but you might also need to have more data for certain customers who would want you to have that, or maybe have longer schedules. Update docs, procs, templates, and masters. I'm generally going to recommend that you don't have these turned on. The reason being is your starter database, which is created every Saturday night, is going to have everything updated through that moment in time. We also have it set up so the automatic syncs, as things get done, if you need a template and somebody creates one in the office at the multi-user level, that can actually get pushed up and come out to you at the single user level, basically as soon as you have internet access. So I like keeping these syncs down in time. The one thing I would definitely, without a doubt, have here would be update orders. The orders are your work orders, of course, and the TechSync module is going to pull in incomplete work orders for the customers that you have. So if somebody's already scheduled you for something out in the field, then basically this would pull everything over there. So this is just a general recommendation, but these items are not saved. Again, these are not saved at the administrative level on the server. These are per workstation. So this gives the technician some flexibility to make certain decisions when they're out in the field, when they need certain things right then and there. So if I press OK, we've got our settings checked, and we're going to add some companies. Acme Manufacturing, of course. Arthco, they're very popular these days. Cyberdyne and Wayne Enterprises, they make a lot of cool stuff. 13 assets, so this isn't going to take a long time. If you got 1,000 assets and 1,000 events, it's going to take longer. It is directly dependent upon the speed of your internet. We're also going to make sure that new database is checked, or the radio button here is on. I always recommend making a new database. That way, your data is always archived and you can see when you did it. If something looks strange, you can go back to that database in that database listing and make sure you can see your historical items that way. I just like keeping the history where it is. And keeping new databases fresh and with the fresh configuration as well. So I'm going to go ahead and press sync, and we're going to get an error here. I'm just going to warn you right now, but I want to make sure you see that this operation will create a new single user database. But we have our dashboard open. Our main screen is open. Your IS dashboard is IndySoft dashboard. That's your main screen. So if that is open, our software doesn't necessarily like to, be pointed at one database and then pointed at another one at the same time. It can cause a lot of problems. So all you got to do from that point is close that and then press sync again. And yes. And so what's going to happen is that we're going to create a new starter database. That starter database was already downloaded from the multi-user side without us having to do anything. If for some reason you move really quickly or you have a longer sync time, and that hasn't been brought in, that new one, it's going to bring it in at the beginning, and you'll see that in the lower right-hand corner. As I said previously, that was not a huge amount of equipment and events to bring in, so didn't take too long there. Pretty sleek looking, but we're going to go ahead and open up our single user, and then I'm going to show you just a couple of things before we go here about how this kind of operates. Okay, so let's log back in. So this is a brand new database. If you have new users, if you have new passwords, those passwords are going to be pushed down. Those users are going to be pushed down into this database, okay? You're going to notice at the top we have a TechSync database. That's going to tell us, if we click on that link, basically what time, what companies we pulled in. If there's any data that we really need to see, it helps your support team help you if you're in any trouble or anything like that and have any specific questions. But if we go from here, as we kind of navigate this, I just kind of want to show you briefly a couple things you're going to see. So if I update the serial number here on this piece of equipment, and I go to my right click and I go to my sync queue, I'm going to see that I have equipment zip. That is not anything yet, but that is something that is sitting in a queue that is waiting for a snapshot to be taken of that piece of equipment. So if I update the serial number, the manufacturer, and the model number all before that sync goes off, you're still only going to see one item in there because it's not 3 separate changes. It is a snapshot of the entire piece of equipment as a whole. Similarly, your events are going to pop in there. It'll say event zip, okay? If you go to your order system and let's say we want to, for some reason, back order a piece of equipment, then when we go back in there, we're going to see, unless it already went, of course, we're going to see an order detail zip. So all of this is kind of waiting for the next 60 seconds. Every time I open this, by the way, it kind of restarts it. So you can just leave it alone to let it sync. So you'll see pending syncs in here. If anything comes in from the multi-user side, it's going to be masters or templates or documents or procedures. It's going to be sitting in here. So that's pretty much it. If you don't have internet access, these pending syncs are going to wait in here until they have a valid connection to your database. And once you have it, it's going to push them up. So I'll just kind of let this happen here. If anybody has any questions about it, please feel free to write to support@IndySoft.com. If you're curious about this and you do not currently have the single user system from IndySoft, you can talk to our sales team. Please feel free to write into us about that. But it does a really great job. It's really efficient, especially compared to the data exchange module. It keeps the data consistent. As you can see, everything pushed up there. So anyway, I hope you all have a great week. Happy Tip Tuesday, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.